Happy Labor Day, and thank you for joining us this morning. Communities across the Northeast are still digging out from Tropical Storm Ida and coming to terms with its devastation. Homes and cars were destroyed by flooding rains and tornadoes, and in all, more than 50 people were killed. In New Jersey alone, the storm is being blamed for 27 deaths, and that number could grow. Governor Phil Murphy says that 4 people are still missing. NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez joins us from Manville, New Jersey. Isa, good morning. So Manville was hit particularly hard. Obviously, we can see that destruction right behind you, and President Biden is expected to visit tomorrow. Tell us, what's it like there on the ground this morning? What happened to that home behind you?
Good morning, Savannah. I mean, you can still see the wreckage all over this neighborhood as you drive by. This behind me is a home that actually exploded when the water caused a gas leak. The same thing happened to several other homes in the area, as well as a banquet hall. I want to show you here across the street another home. This is what most of the homes in this neighborhood look like right now. They were completely turned inside out by the water. The water came in, damaged everything, and residents have had to bring everything out, essentially their entire lives, now garbage on the side of the road. This neighborhood right now this morning, Savannah, is very quiet. These homes still don't have power, so few families are actually spending the night in the area at the moment. In the next couple of hours, we expect to see some families roll back in, as they have been over the last few days, trying to recover during the day whatever they can. But Savannah, these families are still very much in the thick of this recovery process.
Yeah, so Isa, tell me what homeowners are telling you about the recovery process. I mean, how are they going to put their pieces of their lives back together? We see all their belongings on the curb outside. What are they telling you about this process?
Savannah, they're overwhelmed. I mean, it's been a few days, but it still feels like they're very much in the early stages of this, and they really don't know where to go from here. They're taking it day by day, and really hoping to get some more answers. Take a listen.
It gets pretty tense, especially when you're worried if you're going to get your basement, your first floor. Down here, you get your first floor, you're at like a total loss. You know, that's, for a lot of people, that could be, you know, your kids' baby pictures, your possessions, stuff that you cherish. You know, having a total loss, that's your life. It's tough to rebuild from that.
Residents here have told us that they're really hoping to get more answers on what they can do next. They're hopeful that President Biden's visit tomorrow will give them some of that guidance and hope that they're looking for. But really, something that we've heard over and over is that they feel overwhelmed by these back-to-back hits, right? You know, not only these extreme weather events, but also we're still in a pandemic. So it's really been a lot for this community. Savannah?
That's one of the most troubling things that we've seen from these extreme weather events all across the country. Is it's happening at the same time that people need, of course, medical attention for COVID. Now, Isa, this was one of the deadliest storms in New Jersey history, and we know that there was so much more rain all over the Northeast than was expected. It came more intensely and more quickly than people thought, but people say that they weren't warned properly, and maybe that's because we weren't forecasting it correctly. But how are leaders hoping to address that issue in the future so that people know if they need to evacuate and maybe lives could be saved?
Yeah, Savannah. So New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy came to the area over the weekend, and something that he repeated is that we have to build better, that the infrastructure here at the moment is not built to withstand these extreme weather events that are becoming more and more common. He said that he's hoping that Congress steps up and that there is legislation passed that will give states like New Jersey the resources that they need to build better and be more prepared for these events. Savannah?
Absolutely. All right. Isa Gutierrez reporting from New Jersey. Thank you so much, Isa. Now to Texas, where the impact is being felt this morning from the nation's most restrictive abortion bill. The law went into effect on Wednesday, banning all abortions after a heartbeat can be detected in the fetus, which is as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy, and that's before many women even know they're pregnant. And the ripple effects are now being felt beyond just Texas. NBC News reporter Liz McLaughlin joins us now from Austin. Good morning, Liz. So first, just tell us, what's the reaction been like to this new bill in Texas, and then what's the effect, what's the impact on neighboring states?
Savannah, women seeking these services are feeling desperate. We're already hearing some stories. For instance, one woman who is 5 weeks pregnant, so under the limit, but then tested positive for COVID, so has to quarantine for 2 weeks, unable to seek out these services from abortion providers, including the clinic behind me. We're at a Planned Parenthood clinic this morning. Another example, one woman took a medication-induced abortion that did not take, very rare, so now it's a high-risk pregnancy. So these phone lines to clinics outside of the state are almost turning into helplines. People are calling, crying, afraid, not sure what to do. Some women don't have the means or time off work to be able to travel out of the state. For instance, Trust Women's Clinic in Oklahoma usually fields about 3 to 5 calls from Texans a day. Now that number is closer to 50. Savannah.
Wow. Wow, I mean, that right there, you can understand the impact. Thank you so much. And also, we understand that some major companies in Texas are pushing back. Tell us the latest there.
So American Airlines and Silicon Laboratories have spoken out against this. Some of Texas' biggest employers, though, like AT&T, have been quiet about this. Bumble and Match, the dating companies, are both female-led and Texas-based. They've spoken out against this. And Uber and Lyft, they've set up funds so that their drivers can't be sued, or at least their legal fees will be covered, as this law really puts, except for patients can't be sued, but providers and anyone, quote, aiding and abetting, which that language is interesting, right? Because we're criminalizing in that language a constitutional right. But anyone helping someone get access to an abortion after 6 weeks can be sued, including those drivers that provide transportation. So Uber and Lyft speaking out about it, saying that their drivers will be covered, a handful of other companies, but a lot have remained quiet, some that did speak up for things like voting rights. Savannah?
Yeah, absolutely. And a reminder here, that's the big thing with this law, is that any private citizen is able to actually pursue legal action against somebody who's helping another person get that abortion. Now, Liz, what's next for this legislation, both in terms of where it goes from here and for those who are fighting against it?
You know, we've heard a lot of people speaking out. We're seeing outrage. You know, that's not necessarily direct action, but there is a court of public opinion, and that may push lawmakers to do some more as well. I just spoke to comedian Amy Schumer, who says she's not going to stop talking about this. The DOJ is seeking some action here. They might be able to sue as a violation of civil rights. Congress looking to pass some sort of federal law that could protect this. Meanwhile, people are setting up legal defense funds. And restraining orders are being issued. Planned Parenthood was able to get a restraining order that keeps at least one anti-abortion group from suing. But again, any private citizen can still do that. The constitutionality of this law is still in question.
Yes, it certainly is. Aaron, thank you so much. Let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather. Janessa Webb is with us today. Hey, Janessa.
Hi, good morning, Savannah. We continue to watch a major hurricane that is brewing across the Atlantic right now. It is Hurricane Larry, and this system will continue to make its way offshore. It's really Bermuda that we are watching for, with tropical advisories put in place. Now, models are pretty much in agreement that we'll have a steer to the north and east, and it won't be a threat for the U.S., but the high surf is really going to be an issue. So we're really looking out with that storm system, but we still have over 500,000 people without power in southeast Louisiana, and we have heat concerns. Look at these heat index values. We're talking about the feel-like temperature of 103 degrees, and we had landfall over 6 days ago. Also, if you're across Southern California into the desert Southwest, we're talking about temperatures back at 120 degrees for Death Valley. So we're on another heat wave that we're seeing across that area. 17 million people impacted by the heat. Also, the waves of rain is not going to help the cleanup across southeast Louisiana into sections of the southeast. Look at some of these storm totals. This is just a cold front that's going to make its way across this area, 1 to 2 inches, but really concerned right now for New Orleans. Some isolated areas could pick up 4 to 5 inches, and that's just not something that area really needs. Also going to watch severe weather that's running across the Great Lakes into the High Plains this afternoon. Storms storms will continue today all the way into tomorrow afternoon from Chicago to the Ohio Valley. And it's the burst of winds that we're really going to watch across most of the mid-Atlantic into the East Coast. And then we're going to really be talking about a soggy Wednesday afternoon. So, Savannah, we have multiple storm systems, one that's in the Atlantic, a major hurricane. And then we still have heat concerns across Louisiana and the Pacific Northwest undergoing a heat wave and multiple fire danger threat throughout the week.
All right, lots going on. Janessa Webb, thank you so much for covering it all. Meanwhile, the Gulf Coast is still reeling from Ida's wrath more than a week after it crashed ashore as a Category 4 hurricane. In Louisiana, the death toll rose over the weekend, and more than 500,000 homes are still without power. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has the latest from New Orleans this morning.
This morning across the South, residents are reeling from Ida's devastation.
It's terrible, man. It's just so hard.
At least 17 deaths now blamed on the storm in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Louisiana's governor warning the death toll could rise.
Typically, it isn't the direct impact of the storm that kills the most people. It's post-storm activities.
While battling intense heat and humidity, hundreds of thousands in the region are still without power. Louisiana's largest electricity provider saying for some, power might not return until the end of September.
What about you?
Many are also facing food, water, and gas shortages.
We don't have any lights. We don't have any, drinkable water. The hardest part is just trying to get in the stores and get food for my family.
And now 7 nursing homes in Louisiana are being shut down by the state after they evacuated residents into a single unfit warehouse ahead of the storm. Of some 800 relocated seniors, 7 have now died, and 5 of the deaths have been classified as storm-related fatalities.
They were on mattresses on floors, and they had a couple of days of no air condition.
In Lafitte, where there are still feet of standing water, residents are shaken to the core.
It's all my neighbors. I love these people. These people are my family, and they're all suffering. They're all suffering. There's not a person on this body that's not suffering.
Painfully slow signs of progress in a long and challenging road to recovery.
I've done this over and over again. This is the worst I've ever seen.
Our thanks to Vaughn Hilliard for that report. Now, as the summer comes to an end, the U.S. has reached another grim milestone in the battle against COVID. Cases in the U.S. have now passed 40 million, and the number of deaths surpassed 650,000. Hospitals nationwide are seeing an average of 100,000 COVID patients a day as the Delta variant spreads, overwhelming healthcare workers. And this all comes as Americans travel for Labor Day weekend. NBC News' Guad Venegas has more.
This morning, as Americans look ahead to the fall, questions about when many adults can take a COVID booster shot, while children under 12 facing a new school year are still unable to be vaccinated at all as the COVID case count continues to rise. A staggering 40 million infections in the United States. And with COVID deaths rising in 48 states, the country has now surpassed 650,000 deaths since the start of the pandemic. As the highly contagious Delta variant drives the latest surge, the White House is preparing to extend its booster timeline. While a third shot for some of those fully vaccinated with Pfizer and Moderna was expected to be available in 2 weeks, regulators now warn Moderna likely won't make that deadline after the company's booster data was found to be inadequate. The Biden administration adamant on waiting for approval.
No one's going to get boosters until the FDA says they're approved, until the CDC Advisory Committee makes a recommendation.
This as the number of kids infected with the virus is on the rise. A new report from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association found children make up 1 in 5 new COVID cases. And between late June and mid-August, numbers from the CDC show hospitalization rates for kids and teens increased 5-fold.
We know certainly more children are getting infected, and therefore more are getting hospitalized.
COVID put then 4-year-old Lincoln in the hospital for a week last March.
I don't feel so good.
I know you don't feel so good.
His mother, Anna, stayed at his bedside as his condition worsened.
I remember the moments that he said, "Mom, I just don't feel good. I don't think I'm going to go home." That's the thing that nobody wants to hear their 4-year-old say.
Luckily, Lincoln's condition improved, but he would have to spend 3 more weeks on oxygen.
I just think that people need to know that this is possible.
Now, with the Moderna booster, Dr. Fauci has said it could take a few more weeks, but the White House has said that as soon as they have it, they would be ready to roll it out immediately, Savannah.
Guad Venegas, just heartbreaking to hear that account of little Lincoln. Thank you so much, though, Guad. Now let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel for more on the latest COVID news. Dr. Patel, good morning. It's always great to have you. Thank you for spending this Labor Day morning with us. So let's start with those booster shots. So we just heard how the rollout for Moderna shots may be delayed. What does this mean for those looking to get booster shots? What kind of information is the FDA looking to approve them? And you know, I mean, if it's really only Pfizer, that's only a certain set of people who got that in their first and second doses. So what does this really mean? What's the impact?
Yes, Savannah, there's millions of Americans, in addition to those who received Johnson & Johnson, now Moderna recipients who are not going to be able to receive boosters on September 20th. Savannah, it has to do with how Moderna filed their application for their booster shot. They used a reduced dose from their first and second shots. This is in contrast to what Pfizer did, which is basically file for their booster to be exactly like doses 1 and 2, making it a little bit more straightforward for the FDA. So I do think that it will be several weeks, not months. But if you had received Moderna and you're ready to go on September 20th, you're going to have to wait a little longer.
Now let's talk about kids and what's going on with COVID there. I mean, we saw little Lincoln so sick on oxygen for weeks. We also heard Guad tell us that 1,000 schools have been forced to close across the country since the school year began because of COVID. First, let's play some sound from Dr. Fauci commenting on children being vaccinated from just yesterday.
The Delta variant, as opposed to the Alpha variant, is much, much more transmissible. Many more people, including children, are getting infected. You'll get more children infected. In fact, when they get infected, just on a pure basis of the relative number of people that will actually get into the hospital, you're going to wind up seeing more children in the hospital.
So, Dr. Patel, will we see more variants as more children become hospitalized and there's just that more spread that we know is leading to these variants? And then also, with as little as it feels that we know about COVID in kids, what do we know about their risk for lifelong disabilities or issues after they contract COVID?
Yeah, great questions. On the variants point, what we know right now is that what we're seeing in children and adults is Delta, Delta, Delta. So we will not likely see other variants causing infections in children in this surge. Future ones remain to be determined, Savannah, which I think is important to remember. Second, to your point about kind of long COVID or longer term lifetime symptoms, those numbers are increasing. We are starting to get more and more percentages, anywhere as high as 20 to 25% of children who are having symptoms or problems after their initial COVID infections. It does speak to the point that you're making that we do need to worry not just about those who are hospitalized, but even those who have mild infections, because they have also been shown to sometimes have these long symptoms. Something that I think doctors of all types are going to have to look out for, because symptoms of long COVID can be incredibly diverse.
Absolutely. That's something that I still feel like there's so much to learn there, and especially it's concerning with kids. Finally, Dr. Patel, let's talk about what could be ahead for us. So this weekend is sort of considered to be the unofficial end of summer. Of course, today's Labor Day. So now with the Delta variant surging, what do you expect to see come fall and winter? I mean, in surges past, these were the times of real concern, but we're already kind of in a time of real concern. Are we prepared to handle colder months after the summer?
Yeah, great question. Look, we know that this is a virus that has an affinity for colder months, because when it's less humid, it has the ability to kind of stick around and be aerosolized a little bit more easily. So we do worry about the fall and winter, especially with a flu season. We got away with a relatively low flu season last year, Savannah. I don't know if we'll be as lucky, because we're back out working, we're back in school. So I do think that we will have to have more and more people vaccinated. The more people in the next several months that we can get vaccinated, the better our winter season will be. I do think it'll be better than last year. That's good news. But how good it'll be will depend on our actions in the next several weeks to get everyone vaccinated.
That is a little bit of good news as we head into the fall. Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you so much, and thank you for spending this unofficial beginning of fall with us. Have a good one. Now, two hot-button topics are dominating politics right now. Americans are divided over the COVID vaccine. A governor of one state says it is time to have a tough talk with loved ones about taking the shot, while another governor is placing the blame on bad messaging. At the same time, the battle is growing over that abortion law in Texas. Here's a look at both in this week's Meet the Press Compressed.
We are well past, I think, all across America, the populations that are going to listen to a government official and take the vaccine because of it. We're probably past even the point where a local official, a pastor, or others. Where I think we're at is where people are going to have to break that Thanksgiving dinner rule. They're going to have to call or go see that person they love and care about that is unvaccinated. And they're going to have to put their relationship with that person on the line because they've never been at greater risk. And I think it's that type of caring and the person who is willing to do that and to make that sacrifice that will finally get through to those that are not vaccinated.
We're getting some mixed messagings out of the administration, out of the CDC, the FDA, and the White House, and we need clear guidance on these booster shots because it undermines the credibility of it. And so they came out with I guess they slipped and pre-leaked a announcement about booster shots with all three vaccines, and then had to backtrack it and say you can only use Pfizer. What about the people that took J&J? What about the people that took Moderna? They haven't messaged properly about how to take care of these breakthrough infections. So I think the messaging was not clear with either administration.
This law that the Supreme Court blessed, and you can try to dress it up and put a bow on it, but they blessed a law that embraces vigilantism, that embraces the most extreme position. I really think they've gone too far, and I will not accept both sides on this. This is one party that is doing this, not both parties. This is not the place for, both sides are a problem. No, one side is a problem. I got reelected because of an extreme position on abortion. I believe a lot of Democrats will get elected over this.
It's bad policy and it's bad law. And if Republicans are going to try and be Todd Aiken Republicans, Claire is right, they will not succeed. But we have a lot more Larry Hogans, people like Jamie Herrera Butler, who's pro-life and is the leader on helping women with tough pregnancies and kids who have disabilities. And that's the kind of pro-life community that I've always worked with. And I think that's the one that needs to stand up now.